And welcome on in, everybody. It is Tobin here with you, and thanks for checking out the channel. How about this, huh? We got a Friday night, and your Miami Heat moving on to the elimination round of the NBA Emeritus Cup. Congratulations to the Heat. First time they've ever moved on to the elimination round. They were 3-1. Their only loss was to the New York Knicks, who did win today. The Miami Heat did not win their group. They were the lone wild card of the NBA Cup, which I just realized was a thing this week. I honestly, I'm not going to be a phony about this. I don't know how much I really like the NBA Cup. I think it's kind of goofy, but whatever. If the Heat have a chance to go win some dough and some hardware, good for them. I thought last year was it was a good year for them to aim for this. I think this year is probably a little bit better because in a lot of ways, the NBA Cup is their fault. And people always wonder what I mean by that. And I think what I mean by that is the Miami Heat in 2023 made the NBA Finals famously as an 8 seed. And really everybody was like, what is this? I mean, does the regular season really even matter anymore? And so on the outskirts of that, we have Adam Silver, who's just like, a tournament. That's the answer. And I know this has been a thing kicked around before, but, you know, it's been here the last couple of years. I don't necessarily think it's a terrible marker as far as, like, who matters, who, you know, the teams that have been in it, I think, have been pretty decent. I think the Lakers got when they won it, it was a little goofy because we were like, oh, they're putting up a banner for that with all their heritage. But at least the Lakers, I guess, have a lot of championship heritage. They could do whatever they want with their banners. Do I want the Heat having a ceremony if they end up winning this thing? Maybe a little, tip of the cap. It's already up there, maybe next to the divisional banners or whatnot. I don't know if I'm going to get the goosies over it. But I do think for this team, like last year, I thought it was important because I thought the Heat needed to have some semblance of caring. But, last year had a grenade thrown into it. This year, I think it could be good because I think it's important for the Heat to have as many high-stakes games as possible. And, looking at the competition in the group play of all of this, you have the Heat, who are going to now take on the Orlando Magic, who, as if we don't get enough Magic games, we get one more Magic game. So as the 4 seed, the Heat will go and take them on. The winners of the Knicks and the Raptors have been having a very good season. The Magic, after a slow start, have really gotten things together, and they still don't have Paolo back. And the Knicks, obviously, everybody thinks of as one of the better teams in the East. It doesn't feel like you have a lot of fugazi teams here. Now, I'm recording this before I think all of the West is decided. I believe the Lakers are the only team to clinch as of right now in the West. But looks like, Orlando, you got OKC, Phoenix has been a bit of a surprise to people. Denver, San Antonio, they'll figure that all out. But I don't think there's a lot of, whoa, that team, like, it's not like the Wizards are in the mix for all this. So I say all that in that these are going to be high-stakes games against good teams. I think there is some benefit to that with the Miami Heat rolling into this season and catching a lot of people being like, whoa, look at this team off. They're pretty damn good. This could be a nice little statement for this Heat squad. I think different years can cause for different importance of this. And obviously the Miami Heat are playing some pretty good basketball right now. So cool for them. A thing that is in some ways indirectly their creation because of them being able to basically piss on the regular season a couple of years ago with Jimmy Butler and then make the finals anyway. Them needing to add some kind of significance to it, they're able to do it. I got this. This is from Ira Winderman's Sun Sentinel. This is some information on the money. For those who are interested, by advancing to the knockout round, each Heat player under standard contract gets $53,093. Should the Heat win their Cup quarterfinal, each player receives $106,187. If they get to players on the losing team in the championship receive $212,000 and change. Players on the title team receive $530,933. Players on two-way contracts receive half that amount, And so there you go. That's the money at stake for all of this for those who are interested in such things because, you know, that's I'm sure what everybody's concerned about in all of this. But good for the players. Certainly, like, look, I think the move is like you definitely take care of the guys at the bottom of the roster with this stuff. I think that is that's kind of the way to go with this. But as far as the Heat's concerned, it'll either be, I guess, on the 9th or the 10th is when the quarterfinals will be. And then they will then take on the, if they advance, the semifinals are December 13th in Las Vegas. The losers will play a game. Even if you don't win, you got to play an extra game because they got to make up for all the games, I think. So the losers of those quarterfinals will meet in the regular, the losers, this from the Sun Sentinel, the losers of the quarterfinals will meet in a regular season game added to their schedule either December 14th or 15th. And then you have the championship game. And I believe the championship game is the only extra game, I think, out of all this. So you would end up playing 83 games. So that's a look at where they're at with their schedule, but cool for Miami as they're on the eve of taking on, well, the day of by the time this probably posts because I'm doing this a little before midnight. The Heat will take on the Detroit Pistons on Saturday night to resume. Now, the Pistons have been humming lately and now have lost 2 in a row. They were at a point where they were 15-2 on the year. They're now 15-4. They've lost back-to-back games. They lost tonight to the Magic 112-109, and that was in spite of Cade Cunningham having a monster night. 39 points, 13 rebounds, 11 assists, a 39-point triple-double for the motorcade. Desmond Bane with 37 on the other side for Orlando, who, again, is starting to catch a little fire right now and play much better. They're at 12-8. But it is interesting that he got this. They got him a second night of a back-to-back, but you also starting to get them either a little bit vulnerable or you're going to catch them bouncing back strong because they've been playing really, really great. But I mean, they were on an insane win streak at one point. I think it was 13 in a row to match their franchise record. So pretty crazy how good they have been this year. I'm not surprised that Detroit is making a move. I'm just surprised it's to this level where, they were almost on pace with OKC up until these last couple of games. So that's a thing to keep an eye on. The other thing to keep an eye on is Duncan Robinson. Duncan Robinson, of course, making his triumphant return to the Kaseya Center, the all-time three-point leader. According to Tim Reynolds, he will get a tribute video at the Kaseya Center tomorrow. So Duncan Robinson will get a little bit of a salute to the team for all of his great work, and I think he deserves it. I think it's absolutely deserved that Duncan Robinson gets something like this. And I think it's crazy that for anybody who thinks that he shouldn't, like I had some people saying, oh, he took some shots at Heat culture and stuff. And I don't say that to in that tone to mock you. That's just how I'm reading it. And I don't think that Duncan Robinson mocked Heat culture. I think his point was that it had been a little bit played out. And I think if you even ask, there's nobody who I think does a better job in sports marketing than the Heat's marketing department. They do an awesome job. But I think even they would wear that. Maybe we rubbed the Heat culture thing in people's face a little too much. Mantra on the court, the jersey saying Heat culture. Mind you, in the middle of the year, they just parachuted in. They said, no more Heat culture jerseys. We're going back to Vice. For the first time in forever, they were just like, we're switching up the city editions. We're going to this. We're going to the Vice jerseys. Pretty crazy audible. So Duncan's whole point was it just had gotten to a point, I think, where he had said it was just a little overplayed and it had been used as something that's of marketing rather than something that's genuine. And then he had some points today where he's just like, look, it means one thing outside of the building and into the building differently. And I think, he's going to not fawn over his days with the Miami Heat right now. I think this is a very competitive guy. Duncan's a dog, man. I don't call him, and we don't call him the dunk yard dog for nothing. And I think that he's going in there with a competitive mindset. I think a couple things are going to happen. I think he's in a mini slump right now. Over his last 3 games, I think he's like 7 for his last 27 from downtown. So that's either going to continue or he's going to come out like a flamethrower in this game. But I really don't have a big issue. I think this is one of the most upstanding guys the Heat have ever had. And, look, if you have signed the highest contract in undrafted free agency history and you've gone from the G League to a D3 school, a D3 school to the G League, to a two-way to the richest contract ever signed by an undrafted guy, my guess is you're going to be a little sick of the Heat culture questions. So I think I hold no ill will of that with Duncan Robinson. It's pretty obvious. I think Eric Spoelstra has said his story could be a movie, it could be a book, all true. And I'm happy that the Heat are going to do something to acknowledge his time with the team, because I loved watching Duncan Robinson play for the Miami Heat. And I think even within his own journey of this team was fascinating to see, starter to out of the rotation to back into the fold to reinventing himself and becoming even a better player. All those one-on-one games in the gym with the guys out of the rotation and becoming more skilled, becoming more versatile. And and I didn't even like, and I said this even when his career ended with the Heat, and that I said, and I never thought that he was coming back because of the Heat putting him back in the game in the 55-point massacre, which he didn't deserve. I thought it was a tough look for the Heat to do that to somebody of his ilk. And I didn't think that he was just going to come back. I think he wanted a fresh start. I think he was ready for a fresh start, and I'm happy that he gets his chance with a good Detroit team, and that he could be his own influential veteran with them. Now I hope the Heat shut his ass down tomorrow and he gets no baskets. I wish him no success when he plays the Miami Heat. But everywhere else, I will be a Duncan Robinson fan. It's impossible not to be. So I hope that all works out. But I wish him nothing but shooting like a third little pig tomorrow, a bunch of bricks at the Kaseya Center. Like, that is absolutely what I'm going for. And then the other piece of news out of this will be that Jaime Jaquez Jr. is going into this with a groin injury. So he's a bit of a question mark as well. I believe he's officially listed as questionable for tonight's game, which officially will be tonight's game by the time this posts. So keep an eye on that. He's officially questionable. He's obviously been awesome. Could open up an opportunity for somebody else in this. We'll see. The Heat's we'll see what's what with the Heat rotation, but just when you think everybody's all the way back, here we go. We got another injury. And by the way, it was interesting. I think Tim Reynolds asked about this. It was Tim Reynolds who asked about this because Steve Kerr was bringing it up. Steve Kerr loves the sound of his own voice. And he was talking about, the whole pace of the sport and all the injuries. Look, it is notable that the Heat have basically had every one of their regulars, I think, outside of Davion and Pella, who gets his face bashed in every game. I think Davion and Pella, who both were injured in the preseason, but everybody in the Heat have had a groin, a hip, bam with the toe. I'm not counting Tyler because Tyler was hurt preseason, but basically everybody else that is not Davion, Pella outside of his face, and Kalel Ware, everybody's had a little of something. Now, I don't know if that's just wear and tear. I don't know if that's tied to the pace. I don't know. It's just but it is and I don't think Spo wanted to go down that route that it's definite that and of course he's not going to say that, but it's something to keep an eye on. I mean, obviously with this season the way that it goes, the good thing is it's a deep Heat team, So if somebody does need a night of reprieve every once in a while and just to take it easy, the Heat have now had a couple of days off in between, which is nice. Jaime didn't practice. So that's a positive as well. But it's just something, we can keep an eye on. Just keep note of it. I don't know if it's a thing or if it's not a thing, but, it was brought up at a press conference the last time I was boots on the ground, which was the Mavs game. And yeah, it's just, we can keep a note of it if it's a thing. I'm not really sure or not. I don't know what to make of it. I think some of it is just, it could be coincidental. Maybe some of it is. Some of the guys are all bashing into each other, going, neck first at the rim. You got the toe thing now is a little bit fluky by Bam, not a guy who gets banged up a whole ton. And now, we've had a couple of different groin injuries here. So something to keep an eye on. But all in all, Heat, Pistons should be an awesome matchup. And now the Heat have made the cup elimination round. And we should get some good tests ahead for this basketball squad.